Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me. Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire. My guest today is arguably India's greatest living expert on the Constitution. And a book that he's published earlier this month on the Constitution, and here it is, it's called You Must Know Your Constitution, is a profound exegesis on every single article in the Constitution. So if you want to know how the Constitution should be understood, this is a book that is compulsory reading for you. Joining me now to talk about aspects of the Constitution as well as politics and politicians is the one and only Fali Nariman. Mr. Nariman, let's start with the Constitution. I'll come to politics and politicians after that. Now, in Chapter 3, you write, the Preamble is the most important part of the Constitution. Given that most people tend to ignore it, and Indira Gandhi, some people say, controversially amended it, why do you believe the Preamble is the most important part?
Well, for one thing, the preamble of a statute, and a constitution is ultimately compared to a statute, except that it's on a loftier footing, that's all, is a preamble gives you an idea of what is sought to be achieved by the document, of whether it's a statute or it's a constitution. And generally there are preambles to the constitution, and this preamble has been called by our Supreme Court as the conscience of the Constitution. It's the Preamble, Part 3, Fundamental Rights, Part 4, Directive Principles of State Policy, which are not enforceable by in court but are nonetheless binding. They are all part of this conscience of the Constitution.
So you believe that the Preamble is the conscience because it expresses the intent of the framers of the Constitution.
That's right.
Now, the interesting thing, and this is a controversy at the moment, is the Preamble uses the word India, not Bharat. It says, we the people of India. Bharat appears in Article 1. Does that suggest that in the minds of the framers of the Constitution, India was the prior name?
No, I don't think so. You see, you remember that there was a grave controversy about should there be a national language for the new independent country after the British were left. And the question always was, what should it be? There were protagonists of Hindi in such a Devanagari script, in some other scripts. Then there was English, and then there were regional languages, and it almost was that the Constitution was would never have been framed. It was almost at the end, in July of 1949, when this was again taken up, this question of what should be the language, one of the chapters in the Constitution. And they said we won't have a national language, but then we'll have two official languages, Hindi in the Devanagari script and English. So actually the mere fact that the preamble says India doesn't mean anything except that when it's in English. But if you read it in Hindi, it will be Bharat.
Okay, so the fact that the word Bharat doesn't appear in the English version of the preamble is not an important thing.
Not at all.
Now, you also believe, and I'm quoting you, that it's the way judges have interpreted and helped sustain a constitution that had been framed for only 350 million people, most of whom are not even alive today, that is one of the ways in which a written constitution is made to grow into a dynamic living document. In other words, the breath of life comes from judicial interpretation.
Yeah, absolutely correct. That is why we the people, it is of course borrowed from the American Constitution. We the people. Now, if you think of the people as those who were born before the Constitution, like I was, today you would find very few left, because most of them are subsequent to the Constitution. After 75 years, you hardly find many people. So this "we the people" doesn't mean anything, except that, as I have mentioned, one congresswoman in America said, "I was wondering why I was left out by the framers of the Constitution." And she then came to the conclusion that, I wasn't left out, but it is because our Supreme Court has interpreted the Constitution as applying to every living person that I am included. Now, that is exactly what has happened here.
Well, what you're saying is interpretation of the phrase "we the people" incorporates people born long after the Constitution was
Absolutely.
promulgated. Otherwise, "we the people" would refer to those who were alive at the time
Absolutely.
and now dead.
And who are not even alive today. Yeah.
And this also means that you don't subscribe, I imagine, to the literalist interpretation of the Constitution, which is the present fashion in the United States. You believe that there is a duty to interpret the Constitution in the context of the time and in the context of the issues of the day.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It has to be, because it is a living instrument, a living thing. Although there are doubts about how long a constitution should last, etc. And it was expected the American Constitution wouldn't last for more than 19 or 20 years, but it has now lasted for 200 years.
Well over.
Well over 200 years. And well, we are in the 75th year or 76th year of the Constitution. Hopefully, we should continue. The only problem, of course, is that we will never be able to devise a constitution like this or of any type at all.